The difference between being a busy fool and between hustle is a busy fool will not think about building assets. They'll just go out, they'll try and make sales, they'll just try and chase the cash, they'll try and keep moving forward. Whereas someone who's being deliberate and intentional about building their business will think, okay, well, what assets do I need in my business?
Welcome to the Profit Answer Man podcast, where business owners learn to scale their profits and cash flow and work less doing it. You built your business to fulfill your dreams and serve your mission. You're the backbone of America, creating the jobs and opportunities that keep our economy moving. And for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. We're Profit First certified. It's the first baby step in a journey we take our clients on, building cash-rich, margin-strong businesses that don't suck the life out of you. Check out the first 13 episodes of the podcast. It's Mike Michalowicz and my review of each chapter of the Profit First book. Around here, we speak cash flow, profit, and practical execution. No accounting jargon, no fluff. Most accountants, they might help you save on taxes, but they'll crush your cash flow and make you look unprofitable. That's not just a poor decision, it's a liability. We help you focus on what you love. And when we partner together, we become a profit center for your business. If we don't deliver a massive ROI on your investment in us, fire us. Want to see how it all works? Watch the video version on YouTube or head over to ProfitComesFirst.com to grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint book and start making profit a habit. You built this business to serve your mission and your freedom. Let's make sure it pays you back big. Most business owners hustle for revenue, but lose track of profit and cash flow. You don't need to grind harder to grow. You need proven systems that make your business more profitable, your cash flow more predictable, and your life a whole lot easier. That's what I do. I help you to turn confusion into clarity and growth into real wealth that provide you the time and money freedom you deserve. Let me ask you a question. Are you building a business that funds your freedom or one that traps you? Most owners say they want to scale, maybe even sell one day. But when you dig into it deeper, what they really want is time, income, and flexibility. That's not a scale up. That's a lifestyle business. And here's the problem. Those two paths require a different playbook. Today's guest, Saul Cohen, is founder of SC Digital Advisory. He helps business owners figure out which path they're truly on and how to turn chaos into clarity. I love the concept of the lifestyle business. If you've ever felt like you're working harder and not getting ahead, stay with us. This episode will change how you see your business, freedom, and your future. Let's meet Saul and see how. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Saul Cohen. It's great to have you join us today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a niche SME, so it's small, medium-sized accountancy firm. We specialize in, well, I suppose we'd say scale-up entrepreneurs who are sort of ambitious entrepreneurs, and support them throughout their growth journey, mainly through making acquisitions of their own, so scaling up through acquisition and then preparing for an exit. Our aim is to help our clients, to empower them with the knowledge of what their business is worth, help them plan for their exit so that they can exit on their terms without any nasty surprises. My background is I started my first business while I was at university. I suppose the main thing that I learned from that was that a business is very little to do with the cleverness of the idea and everything to do with the power of execution and the maturity of those executing it. But it did okay. It just, we found out that someone who did exactly the same thing started around the same time as us, sold out for 14 million. And we did not sell out for 14 million. So that was an interesting experience. Then I went to PwC, qualified as an accountant in the Big Four, loved the work that I did over there. But I suppose around the year 4 mark, I was sort of looking at, my senior journey, my senior curve at PwC. I was planning that out on what my career looked like. And my dad, who was a solopreneur, he sold his business. And I think he was really shocked with what the business was worth, and he'd never been advised on that. And I remember thinking, it's such a shame. And those really, the entrepreneurs who are scaling up businesses are the ones who really power the economy. And it's just such a shame they just don't know. There's no one there to sort of be in their corner and help them prep for what happens when you eventually exit your business. And so I took a bit of a sort of detour. I decided I was going to work in the SME world. I took a project to sort of help myself raise some funds to get started. That was an interesting project. And then I launched the Expert Eye and have been going ever since. So it's about 6 years now we've been doing that.
We're going to talk about a couple of those items. Before we do, I know you got the Profit First book behind you.
I do, yeah.
How has that been helpful to the clients you've worked with?
Yeah, I think the most helpful part of the Profit First book is the idea of separating your pots, right? That I think it's they've got 5 bank accounts. And I think that idea is inherently helpful because I think lots of business owners, despite what all accountants preach about the need for management accounts and budgeting, I think most business owners will run their businesses via their bank accounts. And just the idea of separating money out into separate pots, it might be 5, in some cases it's less, but just the idea of separating out into many pots, it's a control, and it helps protect business owners against getting into trouble, and also it encourages some level of financial discipline. And that for me is the most powerful thing about that book, and by far what we see in the implementation, the best thing about it.
And that's exactly what it's designed to do. People think it's an accounting system. It's not. It's a psychological control system.
Right.
Because what I came to realize, because I was in the personal finance space, business owners are people. And as people, they're not necessarily business owners first. They're people first. They never learned how to run the finances of their business because they never learned personal finance either.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike Michalowicz was just on my other podcast talking about personal finance. He's taken those concepts and brought it over so that we can run both sides of the business. And that's what I always tell business owners. Your employees don't understand personal finance either. So they're not going to help you make money because they have no idea how to do it. They just think it grows on your tree and you're making all this money. And so they should get paid more, and not necessarily the account. Couple of things. You're in England. And tell me, because I think accounting in England and expectations are different. In America, you can open up a company. The government doesn't care if you have an accountant or even if you have good books. All they care is that you report it correctly on your tax form. I think you're a little bit more stringent there, aren't you? Or not necessarily?
And it is getting a little bit more, I suppose, more controlled as well. If I'm not mistaken, in the US, there's no requirement for an audit. Yeah. So
Zero.
in the UK, so in the UK, there is a requirement for an audit for any business with revenue in excess of roughly 10 million pounds, or if there's more than 50 employees, or there's an asset value is significant. So essentially, any business that the UK government would consider to be a significant business has an audit requirement. So legislatively will require an audit. So that's the first big difference. I think the second big difference is that every business is required to report not only to the HMRC, right, which is the tax man in the UK, their financial performance and their tax return. They're also required to publish their accounts on the public record. Now, really smaller companies are entitled to sort of only publish their balance sheets, but still, I mean that's a really big difference. And we are moving to a period where it's not inconceivable where we'll probably have to just link our accounting software to the government portals, and that's how we will report. I don't think we are so far away from that reality.
So for all of you in the US who say, yeah, that's a business expense, that doesn't fly around the rest of the world. Those
Yeah.
things that you think are business expenses, not necessarily so. You have it quite well here. Understand that we don't have a lot of regulation around this, which on one side is wonderful. On the other side, it allows you to be extremely lax with your financials. And I think that gets business owners in trouble just as much. So there's a plus and minus to everything. You said you started your first company and someone else started and they sold out at 14 million. What do you think the difference was between what you did and what they did?
It was absolutely maturity. We were three guys who were, we thought we were clever because we were doing fancy degrees and we thought we knew what we were doing and we were going to give a crack. We thought we had hustle and we were just going to get out there and we were going to sell and it was all going to be fine. And, we thought business would be easy, honestly. And the competitor who we noticed him set up probably 2 or 3 months after we set up. He may not have even known that we existed, but we knew he existed. And he must have been in his mid to late 40s when he set up his business. He'd had a career beforehand. He was a mature adult. And I think that when he came into the way we approached those two things, he was always focused on what's the 80% of actions, what's 20% of actions that I can do that's going to deliver 80% of the results. And we had no level of any set of intention. We had this big, hairy, audacious goal, and we just thought we were going to hustle our way to do it. And it was sort of a little bit of blind hope and immaturity in comparison to, someone who really is being intentional and sensible when making smart moves.
That sounds like most business owners in the United States, regardless of their age, right? They just go out, they happen into a business or they find their way into it one way or the other, and then they're going to hustle it out. And so they start struggling and maybe they make some money, but they're not really making the maximum they could from their business if they had actually taken the time. And then they get tired. And so that's when they struggle. Being wiser now, what advice do you have for them?
I think because there's no school for business, people just assume that it's not a skill that can be learned. But I think I think that in hindsight, there is a skill that can be learned. It's maybe perhaps softer, but there are plenty of skills that can be learned. Consistency in terms of just understanding what works in business, what doesn't work in business. And there's a wealth of information available. For me, what was really helpful was, someone basically in a very kind way, instead of telling me that I was falling flat on my face when I started my second business and saying that you're making lots of mistakes and you're being immature, they just introduced me very kindly to a business coach. And I had I suppose the sense or maybe dumb luck to agree to meet him and actually take him up on the coaching and carry on with that. But for me, actually, it's being in a room, talking to other business owners, having a coach who'll be honest with you and tell you, watch out for, what are your saboteurs? What are the things that, what's going to hold you back? Where will you specifically fail? Business isn't just a journey about understanding the rule of business. It's also understanding yourself and how you can be a better leader. And I think there's actually quite a lot to be learned and gleaned. So the biggest thing that I would say to anyone who is in that, thinking about being an entrepreneur is put yourself in a room with entrepreneurs. Talk to people who can be honest with you. If you can afford it, get a coach. If you can't, get someone who will be open with you and shine a mirror to you and not just tell you what you want to hear. And I think that more than anything else will help guide where you develop.
It's funny. People think an MBA will teach you how to run a business, and it doesn't. it doesn't give you the skills that you truly need. And the reality is, most business owners haven't been to college. And honestly, that's perfectly fine because college isn't going to teach you how to run a business either. But what you've talked about, and this is why we have two podcasts, right? This podcast is strictly focused on business owners who are struggling with the cash. So I make this akin to somebody who's in the ocean and they're drowning. I come up and go, hey, I'd like to teach you how to swim. They're not going to listen to me. Okay. They need to stop drowning. This show is about how do I stop drowning? How do I get my cash flow ahead of myself so we can do that? The other podcast is how do I learn how to swim? It's that softer side of, hey, now that I can breathe and I have a moment to think, how do I learn how to become the best leader I can? Because the reality is, and if no one's told you this, entrepreneurship is a self-development journey. Your business will only go as far as you've gone and as far as you've grown yourself. And you kind of mentioned that from the two times that you started businesses, you yourself had to grow. And until you do that, it's difficult. So we're at least between us saying, here are the things to look at so that you can get ahead. And then there's more. And then, of course, if you want, hire somebody who will help you with that. We do that. And that's basically what we do for business owners is take them on that self-development journey. And we do it through a financial lens because the numbers tell a story. They don't lie, right? This is what your numbers say. This is what the market is telling you is sellable or not sellable and what it's costing you to do it. And then what it's worth. And all of that, of course, leads to what you kind of do is how do you make a business sellable? It's
Right.
by getting all of that correct and then having a system in place that you can turn over to somebody else. Because if it's all in your head, it's not worth anything.
Absolutely.
So with that, what have you seen are the key success points that make that 80-20? What are the things that business owners need to do to ensure that they are building their wealth, that they are building a successful business and a business that they are not the firefighter in?
Okay, so I'm going to break this down in two ways. So Daniel Priestley, he's blown up quite a lot recently. He's all over the world and on podcasts. But he released a book about 8 years ago, which I read about 8 years ago, called it was 24 Assets. And to be honest, I think it's one of the most fundamental, probably overlooked books on business. And I think everyone should absolutely read it. I think it's a fantastic book. And the reason why I think that book is important, I mention it now, is I think it's got two fundamental principles that I always walk through with all of my clients. And I think it's really important for any business owner. The first is to know what journey you're on. What are you trying to build? I think if you ask most business owners, they will say to you some semblance of, I want a business to be as big as it can be, and I just want to keep growing it, and I want it to be, look after me and give me free time and all of that jazz. But actually, I think that there is two options. You can either build a lifestyle business, so something that's going to give you a really good income, it's going to give you really good flexibility, it's going to give you free time, or you can build what Daniel calls a scale-up business, something that's going to be, it's very different. It's going to be able to perhaps, it's going to be an asset that's going to sell for maybe 100 million. It's going to be the next big thing. It's going to be a big, large corporation. It's a completely different beast. And the way you go about building those two things are very different. And the investment decisions that you make along the way are very different. The second thing is the idea of building assets rather than just chasing income. I think, we mentioned before about, the value of hustle and where that's good. And I think the difference between being a busy fool and between hustle is a busy fool will not think about building assets. They'll just go out, they'll try and make sales, they'll just try and chase the cash, they'll try and keep moving forward. Whereas someone who's being deliberate and intentional about building their business will think, okay, well, what assets do I need in my business? I need a sales funnel. I need And when I'm talking about assets, I'm talking about soft assets, right? So I'm talking about, the processes, the systems. I need a sales funnel. I need a recruitment funnel so that I can get really good people in my team. I need a people management process so that, if we've got, bad eggs, we can get rid of them very quickly and we don't hold on to bad employees for too long. All of these things, these build out a portfolio of assets that come under the umbrella of a corporation, and that delivers real value in the long term.
Do you find most businesses are building what you call a lifestyle business, or are they building a scalable business?
So I think most people will tell you that they want a scalable business, but then when they describe what their ideal lifestyle is, they actually want a lifestyle business.
So what is the difference in lifestyle between the two?
Well, in a scale-up business, if you're building a scalable business, like a business for exit, well, quite simply, when you have profits, you're going to redirect those profits into building better assets within the business, because you're going to be most of the income from the work that you're putting in terms of building your business will come from the sale. So you're thinking, I'm going to sacrifice my income today because my exit is going to be on a much higher multiple, right? And we're thinking about maybe selling out for tens, if not hundreds of millions. I think that most people will tell you that that might be what they want and they want to do something like that. But I think in reality, when they describe their lifestyle, they actually want a lifestyle business, which is a business that gives them the income they need to live a comfortable lifestyle and the flexibility to do so. I think most business owners that I speak to will tell you that they started a business either to make a real difference or for time or for money, and normally it's some mix of the three. And that to me is much more of a lifestyle business type thing than I'm building an enterprise that I want to be here for generations and I'm going to sell it on for hundreds of millions and what have you.
And it's okay to have a lifestyle business. You can have
Absolutely.
a very, very nice life with a lifestyle business, an extremely nice life.
Yeah, and there's no cap on profits.
No, there's no cap on profit. I think, though, the reality, when you look at a lot of the other types of businesses, when I look at the people who've built them, more often than not, and there are exceptions to the rule, they took 30 or 40 years to get there. It took them a long time to build that 10, 11 figure type of a business. Many of them started young and then they continued to grow over time. There are some that grow faster. I mean, we have a lot of tech companies that came about in the last, I'd say, 20 years that have been able to do it. But I think they also came into being in a very unique time that they were able to ride a wave. That isn't always the case. And so for the rest of them, it seems like it takes time to build it out. And you have to make that commitment. Now, if you're only looking for a smaller exit, you can do it much, much faster, I think.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing that I've noticed that your listeners might be really interested in is business owners are much more successful the second time round. Being in the position that I'm in, right? So I get to see sort of the end of the journey, so to speak, quote unquote. I get to see them at the sale. Often the stereotypical business sale goes something along the lines of, so I'm sick and tired of this business. I want out. I just want to be on a beach somewhere. I just want to enjoy my life now. I've worked so bloody hard. I want out. It takes them a couple of years, probably, sometimes quicker, sometimes a little bit longer. And then they sell out for an amount of money. Hopefully they've been advised for, certainly if they've been working with us, they've built assets. They're not worried about, their lifestyle anymore. They go sit on a beach. Within 6 months, I get a call back saying, I'm bored. I'm starting something else. Right. And they do. And what I've found is that almost without fail, and I mean this really quickly, the second business scales faster, more successfully, and leaner, and is worth more in a shorter period of time than the first business. And I think it's just incredibly interesting.
they know all the things they did wrong, and so they don't do it that way the second time. Interesting that you said the word leaner. I've really been struggling with this lately to come up with, I don't know what I'm going to, either I'm going to write a blog post or do something on it. Frugality. And I don't think people realize how frugal Elon Musk is, right? You're starting to see how frugal all the tech companies are, because after a period of buying up the market and all the best people, they're firing people left and right today. They're becoming frugal. Bill Gates, extremely frugal. Warren Buffett, frugal. Most companies that have high profits and are successful over time are frugal. And I think you have to realize they don't have a problem investing and they don't have a problem spending money. They're just not going to waste money. And I find most business owners waste a lot of money. And part of the reason they waste money, I think, is what you just brought up. They don't know who the best marketing agency is. And so they waste money on 10 marketing agencies trying to figure it out. They don't know what the best messaging is. And so they waste money trying to find it. Or we get stuck in shiny object syndrome, right? And so we get distracted. Oh, let's do this. And they don't sit down and think through it. But when you have the age of it and you've been through the tiredness of it, then you have the wisdom to say, I'm not going to do that again. And I think you are right. Most business owners I know, 6 months later, are back in the saddle because they are bored. I mean, we are all driven to run businesses. We're not driven to sit around and do nothing. And so I don't think most of us will. I know I will work as long as I can keep going. So retirement's not a word I know of. What that looks like may change how I deliver, but yeah, there's no such thing as retirement in our world.
No, I think to me, actually, it's more people get bored of the business that they're in, or they're fed up with dealing with the problems of the business that they're in.
They're either fed up of dealing with them or they're not willing to deal with them. They don't know how to get unstuck. So let me ask you a question. When somebody sells a business, right? And let's call it a mediocre business. What I mean by that is they didn't get top dollar, right? They still were able to sell it because the business did have value. Assuming a smarter operator comes in, they're going to come in and clean it up rather quickly, aren't they? What have you seen with that?
But so the first thing is that it's not always smarter operators.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just the fact that they're not emotionally connected, and the same operator looking at a different business will make all the right decisions. It's just because of the fact that they are emotionally connected to the decisions that they've already made. In terms of where do they find the profit? It's all different places. That's the honest truth. It really is. It's always different areas, and every business is different where this is concerned, because every business owner is different and they build things differently. I know what it goes wrong. Acquisitions go wrong for the same reasons every time. They go wrong because someone didn't understand the people, the value of the people, or someone didn't understand the cash flow, and they over leveraged on the purchase. Those are reasons that the acquisition goes wrong. But in terms of where does the increased profitability come from? You know what? In my view, it comes from understanding the business model inherently, and looking for areas to beef it up and make it. Where can we have an add-on sale? And whatever. So actually what we see that's really clever. So for example, we've got a client of ours who bought landscape management companies. They were doing really well. And then they're looking at it and saying, oh, well, actually, do you know what? We do landscape management. We buy a lot of grass seeds. So let's buy a seed company. And so they bought a company that did the seeds. Obviously, that increases the profitability over the course of what they're doing, gives them cross-sell opportunities, but it also gives them add-ons in their existing offering. Similarly, then they look to service tree cutting and whatever it is, tree surgeons. So they look to make a purchase of that. So if you can be strategic in your purchases, then you can look to see how can we make our offering provide a better solution. Because I think when you understand, particularly with B2B, and most businesses are B2B, but businesses have pain points and they will pay for you to fix their pain points. And the more that you have a complete solution to their pain point, the higher margin they're willing to give you. And this is why, Warren Buffett's one of his biggest KPIs, one of his biggest metrics is what's the gross margin of the company relative to the market. Because if you show me a high gross margin relative to the rest of the market, I'm going to be able to defer from that there's a competitive advantage in this business. And I don't think that people necessarily consciously understand that. But I think there's some element of that. But I think subconsciously, a lot of the most successful business owners and acquirers do understand that. And they start making those moves to see, well, how can we increase our margins?
So that's the underlying thing we truly do for our clients. Profit first is wonderful and we love it, but that's not really what we do. What we do is understand their business model as a financial equation, starting with lead flow and ending with building their assets on their balance sheet. And when we look at that, we can see where the lever points are. And so we can tell them where the 80-20 rule applies. If you put your time and effort here, this lever point is it's the one that will give you the biggest result with the least amount of effort, and that we have the ability to manage. And so by constantly helping them see their lever points, they know where to focus their efforts and their time throughout it. I find very few business owners understand that. Most of them are just focused on drive revenue. They aren't looking at the gross margin. And gross margin, like when we talk to business owners, especially in the trades or so forth, it's like, I don't care what your revenue is. Tell me what your gross margin is. Like how many dollars are left to actually run your business and pay you? Because that is far more important than the sales. You can take two $10 million companies, and one of them is a cash cow and the other one is barely making ends meet. And most of it is because of gross margin. And so that is the most important. You keep talking about building wealth and building wealth within the company and building assets. All of that occurs on the balance sheet. And I find very few business owners ever look at their balance sheet. And even fewer business owners know how to read a balance sheet, because balance sheets are not read one at a time. They're read as a series. And as you read them as a series, you have to play Where's Waldo? What changed? And if you don't know how to do that, you're not building your assets. And so you might be profitable, but you're not actually building the wealth. And so these are skills that have to be learned, or put somebody in the seat to do it for you. And I think a lot of business owners get this one wrong. I think they want to learn how to do it. And it's like me, I'm like, I can go and spend an entire month with Tiger Woods learning how to play golf. And I can assure you of this, at the end of the month, I will still suck. But when it comes to numbers, I've got, 40 plus years of knowing it and feeling it. And so at that game, it's going to be hard for somebody to catch up or to even play that game against somebody who has that type of person in their grouping. What have you seen?
Well, the thing is that I think the reason why is because it's hard for business owners in general to give over something that they don't understand, right? And so if they don't understand what good looks like, it makes it really hard for them to know, how do we recruit a good CFO if we don't know what a good CFO looks like? And unfortunately, that's been the root of a lot of bad hires. So I think that is a big issue. I think for me, actually, the most important thing is for the business owner to know what their key metrics are. What are their key indicators, their key KPIs, their leading indicators that are going to help them track and monitor the warning signs before it happens. And I think that's the most important numbers for the business owners to be tracking. And every business is different. And you're right, absolutely, that it's a balance sheet way of thinking. But some of the assets that I've mentioned, they don't sit. If we talk about a marketing plan or a sales process, there's not really any value on the balance sheet of this value per se of the sales process on the balance sheet, but it's absolutely an asset in the business, and it's absolutely an asset that will have value, and an acquirer will expect to see.
True, it doesn't show up as a line item, but is it tangible in that you have a money printing machine? And you'll know what the metrics are. Like every time we do X, the printer goes bzzz and money starts coming in like there's no tomorrow. And when you can figure that out and you can keep it going, then yes, that's a massive asset. But at that point, does it make sense to sell it? Because to me, at that point, I'm going to put an operator in place and I'm going to go and just manage the business afar in that sense.
I don't know what it's like personally, because I haven't had to make that transition. But I think that business owners in general are more than capable of making a move from successful business owner to successful business investor. I've seen them do it countless times. I think what they really struggle to do with is take themselves from owner-operator to owner, non-operator, to take themselves out of the business and see themselves an investor in their own business. I think that, again, so part of the reasons that we mentioned before, historic decisions, emotional connection, whatever it is, I think that business owners tend to find that move a little bit more challenging.
They do. And there's all of this stuff, though, and you mentioned it earlier. Not understanding the money is emotional. Letting go of the operations is emotional. Making decisions in your business when you're not emotionally involved, which is what you said, is a big part of it. We used to have when real estate was down, we were flipping houses. And our one key to the whole thing was to never get emotionally attached to a house. Because we will overpay and we will overdo. And if we can stay emotionally unattached from a house, it became so easy to do business. You just made quick decisions. It was a yes or a no, thumbs up, thumbs down, get it done, move it out. Don't fuss. And yet when we get emotionally involved, it would just be like, oh, we're going to lose money now. And in that case, you're essentially running, each house is its own little mini business. You come in, you run it for a couple of months, you get in, get out, and everything that needs to be done. So you get good at learning to let go of all of those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything we should have talked about that we didn't get to?
No, I think the most important thing, if I were to leave, we're talking about a scale-up entrepreneur who's thinking about how do I acquire, how do I bring in more cash flow? I think the most important thing is not to undervalue the power of taking that moment out and thinking, if you're a scale-up entrepreneur and you've been going for a number of years, you're already in the top 1%. If you're above $1 million, again, you're in the top 1% or 2% of people. You are incredibly unique, and you probably do have the answers. And I think often it's just about taking time out and focusing on that decision and trying to move into that investor mindset. And if I could leave with one thing, it would be that. It would be, it's busy. You might have your back against the wall, whatever it is, but do whatever it is for you. Go to the gym and then just take an afternoon and in some a nice location and work on the business and think, what are my opportunities? What are my threats? What are the things? What are the payoffs in each of these things? What's the required work in each of these areas? What could I be doing? And then you'll have the answers. You put them on a piece of paper, and the clarity will just come. And I think when you have that clarity and focus, that's when you will be able to drive the cash flow that you need into the business.
Work on your business, not in your business. I think we've said that many a times. If people would like to learn more about your offerings and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So LinkedIn, I'm always posting on there, very active. And we have a newsletter as well. I will give you the link to both of those two things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Are you actually building the business you think you're building, or the business your habits are creating? Saul reminded us that there's a massive difference between a lifestyle business and scaling up. One gives you freedom now, the other demands discipline so you can get a payoff later. And the frustration so many business owners feel comes from trying to chase both at the same time. Here's the thing. Wealth isn't built on your P&L, it's built on your balance sheet. That's where you can clearly see whether your efforts are turning into assets like cash, and you remove it from your business. If you're not sure what your numbers are telling you or what levers to pull to build the business you want, that's what we help you do. Simple dashboards, scenario planning, and someone to explain what the numbers mean, not just send them to you. So let's build a business that's not draining you and starts rewarding you. And remember, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is the reality that sets you free. Thanks for listening to The Profit Answer Man, where we believe more revenue doesn't mean more profit, and the bottom line is what really matters. If you're ready to stop living check to check, take control of your cash flow, and finally get paid what you're worth, we should talk. We work with 7- and 8-figure businesses and well-funded startups. If you're a smaller business, check out the Profit Blueprint program. It's a do-it-yourself solution that also can come with my direct guidance in the same level we give our one-on-one clients. When you're ready for results, book a discovery call. There's a link in the show notes or at profitcomesfirst.com. You'll be speaking and working directly with me. In the meantime, grab your free copy of the Profit Blueprint at profitcomesfirst.com. It's the next step to turning your business into a consistent cash flow generating machine. If you'd like to dig more into leading yourself, your company, and building the ultimate life, listen to my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we cover these topics in great depth. There's a link in the show notes. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.